Some chills up my spine every time I take one look at you. Ooh, and I like it. Girl, you're blowing my mind with the things you say to me. I like the way you comb your hair, and I like them stylish clothes you wear. It's just the little things you do that show how much you really care. Like when I'm all in love with you, you know exactly what to do. You make me more than just a dream. Something like that. Ooh, here's my favorite part. And I like it, 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 like it. L say, no. I'm not gonna do it better than that. No. Child. Y'all saw them wigs. I figured this wig was real Debarge like. What y'all think? My friend rooted it a little bit for me. Shouts out to Poop Productions. But yeah, child, it's on now. Let me turn it down a little bit. Child, this remote bot broke. Oh gosh, it's everything. Ain't that life, child? The minute you fix something, here's something else break. It's just like, why y'all come break at the same time, you know? I'm trying not to sneeze, y'all. I hope I don't sneeze. I don't know, maybe it's just Hal. I ain't had her on in a minute. I hope y'all doing alright. And I like it, like it, like it, like it, like it. Look. Okay. So, you know, before I watch this Bobby Debarge story, y'all, I'm gonna have to blow my nose. I'm sorry. Okay. So before I watched this Bobby Debarge story, I had to watch the story of Switch. Now, Switch is a group that was founded in, I think, the late 70s, and I think they officially came out as Switch in 1980, something like that. And it had Bobby Debarge in it, the oldest Debarge, I believe, child Debarge. And then it had Tommy Debarge. He was one of the older ones as well. And then the other group members was, let me see. We had the founder, which was Greg Williams. Greg Williams and Bobby Debarge, they met in high school, I believe. And the whole story was, it was started off in Grand Rapids, Michigan, darlings. So, yes, we have Greg Williams. Who else we had in the groups? We had Jody Sims. Let me see. We had Jody Sims, Greg Williams. We had Phillip Ingram, which is James Ingram's brother, the late great James William Ingram, who can sing his tail off, and so can Phillip. The whole Ingram's clan can sing, I'm sure. Who else we had? We had Eddie Fluellen and Artie Hayes, I believe. Those were all the members, I think. Anyway, so yeah, so I watched Switch Unsung, and you know how they got started, how they got introduced to Barry Gordy through Jermaine Jackson. It was pretty much discovered by Jermaine Jackson. Bobby Debarge, he had started to have a relationship with Latoya Jackson at one point. They were signed to Motown, Switch, and they had a couple of hit songs, but they really did not reach their peak. Things happened, drug abuse, and they all went their separate ways, and unfortunately, Bobby ended up passing away. Did Tommy Debarge pass away? I think Tommy Debarge is still alive. I'm not completely sure though, but I think. But yeah, so it's a lot. But anyway, I wanted to just give a brief little overview real quick, and then let's just get straight into the movie. All right. So the movie started out with we see his significant other, Bobby's significant other. This girl, I forgot her name, Kristen, whatever. She's in the bed with Bobby Debarge. He's laid up, and then we see all the other brothers and sisters. They outside the hospital, and we also see the mother. They had a black mother and a white daddy, and the white daddy was crazy as all get out. But anyway, the mama is in there with Bobby, and holding his hand, talking to him, and then they keep showing scenes. They kept flipping from mama and Bobby, girlfriend and Bobby, brothers and sisters and Bobby, and then the dad outside, like looking real impatient. He was laid up in the hospital. So the daddy, he finally comes in. All the kids are looking at him like all kind of weird with hate and disdain in their eyes. And we find out why. And he finally goes in there. He looks at Bobby, and he just patted his head. He was emotional. Then he walked out. So next we cut to a performance scene of Switch. We see LLoyd in there. LLoyd is playing Eddie, one of the members of Switch, the founder of Switch. LLoyd is playing that character, and we see all the other members. We see Ingram, Phillip Ingram's in his hair, very slick. It was nasty, very slick. He had that old nasty flip bang. I love a flip bang. He had a flip bang in his head. I was just like, come through, Phillip Ingram. So they're doing their thing. They're singing. They were singing. What song was they singing? I think I Call Your Name, something like that. Anyway. So they were singing, bring the girls upstage, etc. So then we see Bobby laid up in the bed. He taking drugs, child. Snort up boots. And I was just like, Lord, like, what's tea? Like, what is really going on? It was interesting how they just dive right into that. So then we see Tommy Debarge. She's knocking on the door saying that, hey, we got a meeting right now with Greg and this white guy that works with them. So they all go out and start talking. And, Bobby is the guy that's playing Bobby Debarge. He plays on Greenleaf. And he's Zora, little annoying ass boyfriend who's just obnoxious. And the role he played in Greenleaf, it seems like the same exact character that he played in this movie, except just times 10. Like times 1,000, because he was just extra. I have a lot of critiques, y'all, so y'all can get them all the way through this as usual. So he was just doing a lot, just being real obnoxious, over talking people. He was real hot headed and real arrogant. He's real stuck on himself, and that's one thing that they did continue to talk about on the Unsung. As to a big part of the reason why Switch broke up is because of Bobby's ego. Couldn't nobody tell him nothing. Everybody knew that he was taking drugs. In fact, the whole Switch, the whole band was taking drugs, except for Phillip Ingram. Two of them did it occasionally, social smokers and drinkers. And then Bobby, Greg, and Tommy, they did it consistently. But Greg, he was just a functioning drug addict. And the other two, when they was crunk up, you knew they was crunk up, child. So, he was just there talking, and we see Bobby. He's trying to campaign for his other brothers and sisters who ended up being the Debarges, to possibly be signed and possibly meet up with Barry Gordy. The white guy was just like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." He's talking about, "Oh yeah, they all pretty like me and Tommy and me and Bobby," and that's right. Bobby's sitting over there staring off into space. Bobby is as high as a Cooter Brown. Bobby don't even know where he at. And I was just like, Lord, it's just so sad to see so many stars go out due to drugs. So many. My God. But with that said, he's also been through a lot in his life, and it was an outlet. We all have outlets, and good or bad or whatever. So Greg got irritated with Bobby because Bobby was a hot mess and unprofessional and arrogant and irritated, and then he was getting ready to slap the taste out of Bobby's mouth, and then that's when Tommy jumped up to my, "Oh, don't let the light stand fool you," whoop to whoop, talking about, "I love you, you know that, but I'm not the one." He was doing what he was supposed to do. He's taking up for his brother, but he should have got his sloppy ass brother in check. But I guess when you're an adult, you make your own money, you have a certain lifestyle. When you do the drugs too, along with your brother, you're just not as bad off. And all this kind of stuff. He's the star of the Switch. So what can you tell him? There's nothing that you can tell a person. All you can do is just physically whoop their ass and put them in rehab. But since they're an adult, they still can walk in and out and not go through with it. So hell, I guess it is only so much you can do when it comes to helping grown people. It really is. Okay, so the whole time they kept showing clips of going back and forth between them now, all of the kids now grown up, and then childhood. They showed one scene of the mama who was very church going, and she saw the kids fight, and she was just like, "This is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to ball your fists up. Y'all supposed to be one and stick up for one another and be a family, etc." And that's something that a few of them always kept with them, like Bunny, the one and only sister, I believe. I know they had a total of 10 kids. Was Bunny the only girl? I think. And maybe there was a younger sister, I don't know, but I think Bunny was the only girl. Could you imagine 10 kids and you the only girl and you got 9 brothers? Ooh, child. So anyway, so they showed a scene of Bobby kind of going back in his head, and he was thinking about the time because Tommy was talking to him, and Tommy was just like, "You starting to act like him. You starting to act like Daddy. I think that you inherited some of his traits." Bobby was abused verbally, physically, sexually by his father. We found out Soul was Bunny. Oh Lord. So this wig itch. So there was a scene with Bobby in a little dress, little Bobby as a child in a little dress. So the daddy was just into some freaky shit, and I don't understand what goes to a person's mind to abuse anybody, first of all, especially sexually. But to do that to your own kids, I don't know what kind of mental child. So that was crazy. Let me see. Bobby ends up talking to Bunny on the phone. Bunny, them supposed to be coming out there. Bobby, along with Tommy, is trying to get them, a record deal, etc. Which is what you're supposed to do, I guess. Help your family. Let me see. They also showed a scene of the mama. The kids was in there singing. The daddy came in there. He was often drunk or whatever, or high or whatever. And he came in there and he asked where was their mama, and it was just like, mama is at church. And so then he gonna tell Bunny hey Bunny, why don't you come up here to the attic with me? You know, I got something to, you know, for you to help me out with. We already knew what that was. You know, being the only girl, you got all these sons, but you gonna ask Bunny to go help you out to lift something, and come on, sir. So Bobby, he was the oldest, so he always defended Bunny. And he was just like, no, you're not going. The daddy got up in his face saying, you know, you're always trying to be super saber hoe, but who's going to defend you, Bobby? You know, just making him feel real bad about himself, about trying to help his sister from being molested by her own father. So, you know, he ended up cussing and roughing little Bobby up. And then Bunny ended up going with him, and Bunny had been molested, I believe, allegedly by that man, their father, for years, and so was Bobby. Wow. It was so funny. You know, on a lighter note, speaking about their hair got better as the years went by. But it was interesting because it was like the 70s and 80s. You know, a lot of people had fros and things and jerry curls and things. But it was so interesting. Like, it seemed like everybody's hair was kind of realistic looking. Except for the main characters, which was Bobby. Like, he had this loosey-goosey Mama Pastor church wig on the entire time. And the bangs stopped right here on his nose. I was just like, what is going on with these? Y'all all supposed to be family members. Everybody had different hair textures. I was just like, what is going on? I mean, that can happen obviously in a real family, but realistically, I mean, they would be slightly different. They wouldn't be that different. I mean, some folks say I was bone straight, not a kink in sight. And some folks' hair was like super kinky, and then other folks' hair was like full of like loose flips and stuff. And I was just like, what is... Anyway, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna let it go. Big Boy, he played Barry Gordy. The guy that got to play Jermaine Jackson in the movie, he looked like a Jackson. Let me see. Bobby ended up calling his mama at one point in the film, who was played by the mama in Boys in the Hood. Ricky and Doughboy mama in Boys in the Hood. And she says she told Chico, Debarge, y'all know Chico, told him to go and check on the twins and you know the other ones. So I was just like, Lord. So I believe James joined Debarge, I think, later on. But Chico and James and whoever the twins was, they was the younger ones, and the rest of them went on to, the older ones went on to be in Debarge. And then of course, you know, you got Tommy and Bobby, who were the oldest. So yeah, you know, there was a scene where they was meeting in the hallway. This was the first time that Debarge was meeting Jermaine, and you know, there was a little starstruck because, you know, this is Jermaine Jackson at the time, and he was, you know, a big star in his own right, you know, part of Jackson 5. You know, everybody grew up on them. And so with that, we also see Latoya, and I'm like, who is this Hispanic girl they got playing Latoya Jackson? But I let it go. It's like, whatever. And you know, like I said, Bobby and Latoya had a relationship going on. It was said in the unsung film that they, you know, had a really serious relationship, and when Latoya broke it off with Bobby, that broke his heart. And Bobby Debarge, apparently he was he was also bisexual, yet they did not touch on this in the film at all. They just had him, you know, with women the entire time. They did not touch on the fact that he was bisexual. He was openly bisexual. And being openly bisexual at that time, and also being a person of color, child, please, you know. So, you know, that was the whole thing. But they didn't touch on that at all. I was just like, okay. So, yeah. So, you know, Debarge ended up singing for Motown, and Barry Gordy liked them, signed them. You know, they started doing their thing. let me see. There was a scene with Switch, the members Greg and Phillip, and they were one of the two original members, and Greg, like I said, founded Switch, and now Switch came before Debarge, remember that. But he was just, they was just over it. They found out that Bobby was the label was trying to give him his own solo deal, and so he was just real pig-headed and just an ass at times, and felt invincible like most people would who didn't come from anything and who dreams is coming true in front of their eyes and who has access to any and everything, especially money. So of course you're going to be on cloud nine. It's just some people let it completely take over them in a negative way. Let me see. There was a scene with Chico. He was talking to his mama and Bobby about how this guy want to make him a star, etc., etc. Now mind you, Chico, like I said, he might be the baby, but I'm not completely sure. But he was one of the younger ones, and he wanted to be like his brothers and sisters. And Bobby was just like, child, don't be paying that no attention. You don't know. It's always somebody trying to sign you. Don't fall into that. He was like, okay. So then Bobby, he decided to bring up everything that went down with his mama. They started having a very heated debate, and it kind of came out of nowhere. There was no lead up to it. So I was trying to get deep into it, but I was just like, because it just came out of nowhere. It got real heated real quick. So he said something to her. She said something back and was just like, well, let's talk about this, baby. You can't just keep walking around acting like ain't nothing wrong with you when you know what's going on. And he talked about how he told his mother that he was being molested by the dad. Bunny told her mother that she was being molested by the dad. And the mama still didn't do nothing. She said, that's a lie. I left him. But apparently she left him and then came back. This woman had 10 kids by this man. And I don't know her family history or, the situation. But, back in the 60s and 70s, being married to somebody of another race was a different thing. And the mom, she was kind of making excuses for him, saying you have no idea how many jobs he's been turned down from, and how many times he's been disrespected out in the streets because he's married to me. And then he was just like, it don't matter. You still pretty much made excuses for him and chose him over us. But how many people actually want to take in 10 kids and help somebody out? That is a lot of responsibility. That woman probably had no choice but to go back to that abusive man. Obviously there's way more outlets and stuff now, but at that time, I mean, what was she gonna do? Split all the kids up into different places, just let other family members raise them? I'm assuming she didn't want to do that, so she had to go back to that man, and then the abuse continued to happen. But the fact that they was abused and went through so much that they left a bad taste in their mouth for both their father and their mother. And rightfully so. Let me see. There was a scene where he was supposed to be in the studio often. Bobby Debarge was late for the studio because he was getting high. And he came in there acting a fool, showing out. And they end up letting him go from the label. But mind you, he's also, he kind of helped put his family on, and his family's kind of thriving while his career is going downhill. So there's a little jealousy there and all that. Also, so I felt like the acting was good. Well, I felt like the acting was decent with everybody else. But with the main character, which is Bobby Debarge, I don't know. There was many. I felt like he was honestly when he was supposed to be playing a younger role. It's like when he was supposed to be playing an older role. It's like they still made him. He was still looked 15 years old. Like I was just like, it was weird to me. I was like, why they don't make him look a little older or something when he's supposed to be playing an older man, especially a man that's sick now, that has HIV or whatever. So I'm just like, and obviously HIV and AIDS is, it looks different now than what it did back then. And then with him being in jail and being on drugs, also all that plays into how you look. And so I was just like, why did they make him up? Like, he still looked young and healthy when he was supposed to be sick. Is what I'm saying, I guess. And then seeing as how he was one of the older brothers, he looked younger than all his younger siblings in the movie. So it's obviously it's minor things like that, minor critiques, but still, I was just like, a lot of things was just odd to me. I don't know. It's kind of, and just the overacting that it seemed like he was doing. It kind of seemed like he watched a parody or something of how a drug addict acts, and he watched that and stuff, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be mean or nothing, because I'm sure he's cool. I enjoyed the movie as a whole. But it was just certain things and certain parts. It was just a little odd and not true to form. How about that? That could have been portrayed way better. But I mean, hey, this is not some box office movie. Okay, so let me think. So James Debarge and Bobby Debarge, they always have this rocky relationship. We found out that James Debarge, well, I heard this a while back on the Debarge Unsung, that James Debarge was the daddy's favorite. So the daddy never beat him. He never hurt James or nothing. And, there was this heated exchange between James Debarge and Bobby Debarge when James Debarge was waiting on Janet Jackson. So Bobby was with Latoya at one point, and as we know, James was with Janet. Janet was getting around back in the day. But anyway, so they're talking, and James, you can tell, don't want to be bothered with Bobby. He don't like Bobby, and Bobby was just trying to figure out why he don't like him. He don't want to be around him, etc., etc. We found out that he basically abused James. James was younger, and also Bobby was jealous because James used to get all daddy's love, and that's all Bobby wanted. So they almost get into a little fight there. And poor Bobby, he's weak, and his feelings is hurt. He don't want to fight his brother. He really don't understand. And also, all this happened when they were kids, but obviously, things that happen when we're children affects us as we get older. It kind of shapes the person that we become. So he was talking to him, and James pretty much just washed his hands off with Bobby. James pretty much washed his hands off with Bobby, and was just like, I'm pretty much done with you. And they both was crying, and it was kind of sad. I was like, oh, that's definitely sad to see. That sibling rivalry that they probably wouldn't even have if it wasn't for their abusive father. So super sad, super sad. Let me see. So he meet his girlfriend at a party or whatever. This is 1987, and well, he met her years before that, but in 1987, they were official, and she ended up getting pregnant. by him. And all of a sudden we cut to a scene where we see Tommy. No, actually, we see Bobby, Tommy, and Tommy's girlfriend and the little baby. They go upstairs and go to sleep. And then that's when Tommy and Bobby end up taking drugs hard and shooting up. And then Tommy ended up getting arrested for drug possession first. And then Bobby did. But in the unsung, it was Bobby who got arrested first. And years after that, it was Tommy. So, I mean, okay, I guess. So they showed the scene of this guy, these group of black dudes. And they were saying, oh, how pretty he is, and all this kind of stuff. He was mopping. Then he got up and he was just like, oh, I know who you is. And, you know, he started singing I Like It by Debarge. And he was just like, yeah, you Debarge. He was like, that's my family. That's not me. You know, he felt offended. And honestly, when you think about the Debarge, the Debarge family, they all have a signature sound. They're very beautiful, high, falsetto. All of them sing that way. Kind of like how all the Jacksons, you know, talk a certain way. And so, you know, him saying that was L kind of offended him, even though that was his family. Because, you know, when you think about a Debarge, or oftentimes, you know, when you hear a song by Switch, you hear that signature Debarge sound, and you automatically think it's just Debarge, the whole group, or you think it's L Debarge. So, he felt some kind of way about that. And the guy kept singing, and he spun around and punched him in the face. And then that's when El Debarge, he unloosed his mop and started beating his ass with a wooden stick. And then that's when all the guys started ganging up on him. And then the next scene, child, was when, you know, he was just coughing like crazy. And the doctor said, you know, I don't like the sound of that cough. The doctor, you know, took a little blood work or whatever and told him then he had HIV. And, you know, that broke me down. It really did. Because you can only imagine being in jail already, which is already a lot. But then finding out that you have HIV in jail, not even knowing when you can get out. And, you know, especially at that time, when you think of HIV or AIDS, you automatically just think death. And so, you know, I could only imagine. That definitely made me tear up, that scene. Because I was just like, oh, Lord, I can only imagine. He told his girlfriend, you know, she came to go see him. And it was super emotional, that scene. I was like, wow. So, let me see. They showed a scene where it was 5 years later, and he ended up getting out of jail. And he was also writing his own solo album the entire time in jail. And you know, he got out, and you know, he was working on his album. And as soon as he got out of jail, the AIDS it went from HIV to AIDS. It started to kick in rapidly. And, you know, I remember watching on the Unsung, they said that one of the members of Switch said that he could not even lift a bag of groceries and put it on the table. That's how weak he was. And I was just like, Lord have mercy. And, you know, Bunny also said on Unsung that she saw it was bitter and it was also sweet because she saw her brother give his life to God in his final days. So pretty much after he left jail, he went down pretty rapidly and started to hit him. And like I said, this was the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, medicine wasn't where it is today, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot to you know, take in as to why certain things, you know, happen, and how today it probably could have a much different outcome. Just super sad, the ending. And then, you know, it just cut to the part where it began from, with him being in the bed and all his brothers and sisters being there. I guess they called the family to come in, and You know, he just started coughing, and then he, passed away after that. I definitely wish that they would have dived more into the unsung. Was definitely more in detail. Y'all have to watch it. It's Switch Unsung on TV One. Just like this movie is on TV One. But it was definitely more in detail about Bobby. The unsung was, and it was about Switch. It was about the whole group. And this was just strictly about Bobby. When they briefly skimmed over Switch in this movie. And I felt like that was a big part of it. Also, they should have showed more about their childhood. How they came to be. How the parents met. It was just certain things that I felt like they should have dived more into. But maybe if they did just a Debarge movie about all of them, maybe they'll do that. What happened with the father as to why he was so evil and demonic. There's no other words to say as to why you would, do that to your own kids. I wish they would have dived more. In certain parts, they rushed. I felt like it was too many commercials during it. It was a decent movie overall, but it definitely had its moments where it could have been, it was just those details that they left out. They ended up being major details that they kind of needed to make a complete film that completely summed up his story and made sense. But overall I enjoyed watching the movie. It had some good parts and things, and hey, it's people working, right? I enjoy seeing Lloyd in the movie. I like Lloyd. Anything else I want to talk about? God rest Bobby Debarge and all the other Debarges that have went on to glory. Such a talented family. And, God bless the ones that are still here, like Elle and Bunny and Chico, and, they've definitely been through a lot, and they deserve all their flowers. And hopefully, one day, like at the BET Awards, Soul Train Awards, the whole family gets honored. How about that? With that said, I'm Mr. Chalaki. Mr. Chalaki on Google Plus. Follow me at The Skins World on Instagram and Twitter. At The Skins World 89 on Snapchat. Chase King on Facebook. Mr. Chalaki on Cash App and PayPal. Run me my money, I'll run me my fade. Run me my money the way I get paid. Stay black, stay tuned. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. And I love it. And I love it. And I love it. See, that's the barge. That ain't Switch. You see what I'm saying? Bye.